The Rich History of the United Kingdom, A Journey Through Time. Welcome to our journey through Britain's rich and transformative history. In this video, we'll explore the key periods that shaped the UK, from its ancient beginnings to modern-day influences. We will begin with the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods, uncovering early advances in human ingenuity and social organization. Next, we'll examine the Bronze and Iron Ages, key periods that laid the foundation for British history through metalworking and tribal kingdoms. Next, we will travel through Roman Britain, a period marked by economic prosperity and cultural enrichment that left a lasting legacy on the island. We will also explore the dynamic Anglo-Saxon and Viking ages, characterized by migrations, conflicts, and attempts at unification under Alfred the Great. The Norman conquest and the Middle Ages brought significant changes, including the establishment of Norman rule and historical events such as the Magna Carta. The Tudor and Stuart reigns then reshaped Britain's political, religious, and cultural landscape. As we move into the 18th and 19th centuries, we will see the vast expansion of the British Empire and the revolutionary changes of the Industrial Revolution, establishing Britain as a world power. Finally, we will examine the 20th century and the modern era, marked by immense change, adaptation, and Britain's enduring global influence. Join us as we explore the story of the United Kingdom's fascinating history, resilience, innovation, and profound impact on the world. The United Kingdom, often referred to simply as the UK, has an interesting and complex history that spans thousands of years. From ancient civilizations to modern-day global influence, UK history is a tapestry of events, cultures, and significant milestones. This article outlines the key historical periods and events that have shaped the UK, providing an SEO-friendly overview for history buffs and researchers alike. Prehistoric Britain, the Paleolithic and Neolithic ages. The history of Britain can be traced back to the Paleolithic period, around 800,000 years ago. During this time, the earliest human inhabitants arrived, marking the beginning of Britain's long and storied past. These early Britons were hunter-gatherers, living in small, nomadic groups and relying on their surroundings for survival. Archaeological finds from this period include various tools made from flint and other stones. These artifacts offer a glimpse into the everyday life of Paleolithic people, showing their ingenuity and adaptability. Evidence of their existence has been found at sites such as Boxgrove in West Sussex, where the remains of a Homo heidelbergensis have been discovered, offering invaluable insights into the lives of these ancient humans. Neolithic Age, rise of farming and settlements. The transition from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic period around 4000 BC marked a significant change in the way of life of the inhabitants of Britain. Also known as the New Stone Age, the Neolithic period saw the advent of agriculture, which brought about profound changes in society. With the introduction of agriculture, people began to settle into permanent communities, leading to the development of more complex social structures. Cultivating crops and raising animals allowed for a more stable food supply, which in turn supported larger populations. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Neolithic period in Britain is the construction of monumental structures. Stonehenge and Avebury are two famous examples, which stand as a testament to the engineering skills and spiritual beliefs of the ancient Britons. These megalithic sites, with their precise alignment and large stones, have long fascinated historians and archaeologists. They provide a window into the ritual and religious practices of Neolithic societies. Stonehenge, an icon of Neolithic Britain. Stonehenge, located on Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, is perhaps Britain's most famous prehistoric monument. Built in several phases between 3000 and 2000 BCE, Stonehenge consists of a ring of standing stones, each weighing several tons. Stonehenge's purpose remains the subject of debate, with theories ranging from an astronomical observatory to a ceremonial site for ancestor worship. Avebury, a Neolithic masterpiece. Avebury, another important Neolithic site, is located in Wiltshire, not far from Stonehenge. Unlike Stonehenge, Avebury is a large henge and stone circle, with a small village within its boundaries. Built around 2600 BC, the sheer scale and complexity of Avebury highlights the advanced organizational and construction skills of Neolithic people. The legacy of prehistoric Britain. The Paleolithic and Neolithic periods laid the foundation for the rich tapestry of British history. The transition from hunter-gatherer societies to settled farming communities marked a turning point that would shape the future of the British Isles. Notable structures from this period, such as Stonehenge and Avebury, fascinate and inspire, standing as enduring symbols of the ingenuity and spirit of ancient Britons. Exploring the Bronze and Iron Ages in Britain. The Bronze and Iron Ages were periods of change in British history, with significant advances in technology, social organization, and cultural changes. These visits laid the foundation for the complex tapestry of British history, influenced the development of tribal kingdoms, and set the stage for future historical milestones. Bronze Age, 2500 BC, 800 BC. The Metalworking Revolution. The Bronze Age in Britain, beginning around 2500 BC, ushered in a new era of technological innovation. The introduction of metalworking led to significant advances in tools and weapons. An alloy of bronze, copper, and tin, used to make tools more durable and efficient than the stone tools previously used. This leap in technology facilitated improvements in agriculture, crafts, and warfare. Agricultural development and settlement. With new equipment, farming methods became more efficient, increasing agricultural production. This period saw the establishment of permanent settlements as communities developed around the fertile lands. These settlements promoted trade and the exchange of ideas, further accelerating social development. Megalithic monuments. The Bronze Age is also famous for its magnificent megalithic constructions. Stonehenge, one of the most famous prehistoric monuments, reached its peak during this period. These structures are believed to have served religious or ceremonial purposes, reflecting the complex spiritual and social structure of Bronze Age societies. Iron Age, 800 BC, 43 AD. Introduction to iron. The Iron Age, beginning around 800 BC, marks another major technological advance with the introduction of ironworking. Iron, being more abundant and harder than bronze, revolutionized the manufacture of weapons and armor. The superior power of iron tools allowed for more efficient farming and warfare, further shaping the social dynamics of the time. Hill forts and defensive structures. A defining feature of the Iron Age in Britain was the construction of hill forts and other defensive structures. These forts, often located on high ground, provided strategic advantages and protection against attack. Examples such as Maiden Castle and Danbury are testament to the architectural and engineering skills of the period. Tribal kingdoms and Celtic influence. The Iron Age was characterized by the development of tribal kingdoms, each with its own distinct culture and social hierarchy. This period saw significant cultural changes, heavily influenced by the Celtic migrations. The Celts brought with them new art styles, religious beliefs, and social structures, which were integrated into existing societies, creating a rich cultural tapestry. Economy and trade. Iron Age societies were complex and economically advanced. Trade networks expanded, facilitating the exchange of goods such as salt, pottery, and metals. This period also saw the use of early forms of currency, which helped standardize trade practices and promote economic stability. Cultural and artistic developments. The Iron Age is famous for its artistic achievements. Celtic art, characterized by intricate designs and patterns, flourished during this time. This period also saw the development of early forms of writing and the oral tradition, which played an important role in preserving history and cultural narratives. A legacy of the Bronze and Iron Ages. The development and cultural developments of the Bronze and Iron Ages set the stage for subsequent historical periods in Britain. These visits laid the foundations for the formation of more complex societies and the eventual emergence of Britain as a major player in European history. The technological innovations, social structures, and cultural achievements of this period continue to fascinate historians and archaeologists. Sites such as Stonehenge and the many hill forts scattered across Britain serve as enduring symbols of the ingenuity and resilience of these ancient peoples. Roman Britain, AD 43 to 410. The transformation of the island. The Roman conquest of Britain began in AD 43 under the Emperor Claudius, an important chapter in the island's history. The Romans, renowned for their engineering and administrative skills, established control over much of Britain and initiated profound changes that would shape the region for centuries. This article chronicles the Roman occupation of Britain, exploring its major developments, cultural impact, and eventual decline. Roman invasion and conquest. Campaign of Emperor Claudius. In AD 43, Emperor Claudius began a systematic military campaign to conquer Britain. The Romans, taking advantage of their superior military strategy and technology, quickly subdued key local tribes. The conquest was not without resistance, but the disciplined Roman legions combined with their strategy ensured the establishment of Roman rule. Establishing control. Once the initial resistance was overcome, the Romans turned their attention to consolidating their control. They built a network of roads connecting different parts of the island to facilitate the movement of troops and trade. These roads, some of which are the basis of modern British roads, were engineering marvels that significantly increased communication and trade. Construction and economic development. Urban development. The Romans founded several cities, with Londinium, modern London, becoming an important administrative and economic center. The city boasted impressive structures such as forums, amphitheaters, and public baths, reflecting the sophistication of Roman urban planning. Other important cities include Eboracum, York, and Verulamium, St. Albans, each serving as an important center of Roman administration and culture. Economic development. Roman Britain saw considerable economic growth. The introduction of Roman agricultural practices, mining operations, and trade networks boosted local economies. Britain became an important part of the Roman Empire, exporting resources such as grain, metals, and even slaves. Economic prosperity under Roman rule led to increased wealth and the development of a more complex economy. Cultural and technological influences. The spread of Roman culture. The Romans brought with them a rich cultural heritage that significantly influenced the native Britons. Roman law, language, Latin, and customs spread throughout British society. The process of Romanization included the introduction of Roman foods, clothing, and religious practices. Temples dedicated to Roman gods were built, and many Britons adopted Roman gods alongside their traditional beliefs. Technical inventions. Technological advancement was another hallmark of Roman Britain. The Romans introduced new building techniques, including the use of concrete and brick, which revolutionized construction. Aqueducts and sophisticated plumbing systems improved urban living conditions. Roman innovations in agriculture, such as the use of heavy plows, increased food production and supported population growth. Decline of Roman rule. Internal battles. By the end of the 4th century, the Roman Empire faced a number of internal challenges, including political instability, economic problems, and military pressure from barbarian invasions. These problems weakened the empire's ability to hold on to outlying territories, including Britain. Withdrawal from Great Britain. In 410 AD, Roman forces were withdrawn from Britain as the empire prioritized the defense of its core territories. The departure of the Roman legions marked the end of Roman rule in Britain, creating a power vacuum that would lead to centuries of turmoil and change. The legacy of Roman Britain. The influence of Roman Britain is still evident today. Roman roads, ruins of castles and villas, and the remains of baths and amphitheaters can be found across Britain. These archaeological sites offer a glimpse of the sophisticated society that once flourished under Roman rule. The administrative, architectural, and cultural contribution of the Romans laid the foundation for future developments in British history. The Anglo-Saxons and the Viking Age, the making of early medieval Britain. The history of the United Kingdom has been marked by numerous invasions, migrations, and cultural changes, none more so than during the Anglo-Saxon and Viking Age. Spanning from the 5th to the 11th centuries, these periods were important in laying the foundations of modern England. This article explores the major events, impacts, and legacies of the Anglo-Saxon and Viking eras, providing a comprehensive and SEO-friendly overview for history buffs and researchers. Arrival of the Anglo-Saxons, 5th to 7th centuries. The post-Roman transition. After the Roman departure from Britain around 410 AD, the island became vulnerable to invasion and internal strife. This was the period when the arrival of Anglo-Saxon tribes from present-day Germany and Denmark began. These tribes, including the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, established themselves in different parts of Britain, leading to the formation of many kingdoms. Establishment of kingdoms. The Anglo-Saxon period saw the rise of notable kingdoms such as Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria. Each kingdom had its own unique culture, governance, and social structure. These early medieval polities were often in conflict with each other, vying for dominance and territory. The spread of Christianity. A significant cultural shift occurred with the spread of Christianity, beginning with the mission of St. Augustine in 597 AD. Sent by Pope Gregory the Great, Augustine's mission to Kent led to the establishment of the first Archbishop of Canterbury. Christianity gradually spread throughout the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, deeply influencing their culture, laws, and governance. Monasteries became centers of learning and literacy, preserving and producing important historical texts. Viking invasions, 8th to 11th centuries. Early Viking raids. The Viking Age began in the late 8th century, marked by the infamous attack on Lindisfarne Monastery in 793 AD. The Norsemen of Scandinavia made numerous raids on the coasts of Britain, targeting monasteries, towns, and settlements. These early raids were primarily for plunder but soon turned into more sustained raids and settlements. Daniel's stay. By the middle of the 9th century, the Vikings had established control over significant parts of England, known collectively as the Danelaw. This area included large areas such as East Anglia, Northumbria, and parts of Mercia. The Vikings settled and integrated with the local populations, influencing the culture, language, and legal system of these regions. Resistance and unity under Alfred the Great. The latter part of the Anglo-Saxon period was marked by resistance led by King Alfred the Great of Wessex. Alfred successfully defended his kingdom against Viking attacks and laid the foundation for the eventual unification of England. His military and diplomatic efforts culminated in the Treaty of Widmore in 878 AD, which defined the borders between the Anglo-Saxon and Viking territories. Alfred's reign also saw significant cultural and administrative reforms, including the promotion of education and the creation of laws. A legacy of the Anglo-Saxon and Viking Age. The Anglo-Saxon and Viking era left an indelible mark on the history and development of England. The period's contributions to language, law, and governance have a lasting legacy. The unification efforts initiated by Alfred the Great paved the way for a more centralized English state. The cultural and genetic influence of the Vikings can still be seen in modern Britain, particularly in place names and local traditions. Cultural integration. The amalgamation of Anglo-Saxon and Viking cultures gave rise to a rich, blended heritage that shaped the social and political landscape of medieval England. This period of history is reflected in the epic literature of the time, such as Beowulf and the Norse sagas, which provide valuable insight into the values and struggles of these early medieval societies. Linguistic influence. The Old English language, spoken by the Anglo-Saxons, was significantly influenced by Old Norse due to the Viking presence. Many words in modern English, especially those related to governance and everyday life, have roots in both Anglo-Saxon and Norse. The Norman Conquest and the Middle Ages, an important chapter in British history, 1066 to 1485. The history of the United Kingdom is full of transformative events, but few are as significant as the Norman Conquest of 1066 and the medieval period that followed. These centuries were marked by dramatic changes in governance, culture, and society, which laid the foundation for modern Britain. This article highlights key events and developments of the period, providing a comprehensive overview for history buffs and researchers. The Norman Conquest of 1066. Battle of Hastings. The Norman Conquest began with the Battle of Hastings on October 14, 1066. William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, led his forces against King Harold II of England. The battle was hard fought, but William was victorious, a victory that changed the course of English history. Harold II's death on the battlefield marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule and Norman dominance. Establishment of Norman rule. William's victory at Hastings was only the beginning. He quickly moved to consolidate his power, launching a campaign to subdue the English nobility and dominate the country. Norman castles, such as the Tower of London and Windsor Castle, were built as symbols of Norman power and as defensive structures. These forts became centers not only for military purposes but also for administration and justice. The Domesday Book. One of William's most important administrative achievements was the compilation of the Domesday Book in 1086. This extensive survey recorded lands and resources throughout England, providing a detailed account of the country's wealth and assets. The Domesday Book was an important tool for assessing taxes and helped to consolidate Norman control over the land and its people. Integration of Norman culture. Architectural and cultural influence. The Normans brought with them distinct cultural and architectural styles that had a profound effect on English society. Romanesque architecture flourished, evident in the construction of grand cathedrals and abbeys such as Durham Cathedral and St. Albans Abbey. These structures, with their massive stone walls and round arches, symbolize a new era of Norman influence. The feudal system. The Normans also introduced feudalism, a hierarchical structure that defined medieval English society. This system established a clear order of tenure and governance, with the king at the top, followed by powerful lords, knights, and peasants. Feudalism reshaped the social and economic landscape of England, affecting the lives of everyone from nobles to commoners. Major medieval events. Signing of the Magna Carta, 1215. One of the most important events of the Middle Ages was the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215. Faced with a rebellion by his barons, King John agreed to a charter that limited royal authority and established some legal protections for subjects. The Magna Carta is often regarded as a foundational document for modern democracy, as it introduced the idea that the king was also subject to the law. 100 Years' War, 1337 to 1453. The 100 Years' War, a long conflict between England and France, dominated much of the 14th and early 15th centuries. The war was characterized by a series of battles, shifting alliances, and territorial disputes. Important figures like Joan of Arc and King Henry V emerged during this period. The war had profound effects on both countries, bringing about political and social changes that would shape future centuries. Wars of the Roses, 1455 to 1487. The Wars of the Roses were a series of civil wars fought between the houses of Leinster and York, both vying for the English throne. These conflicts were marked by brutal battles, shifting loyalties, and political intrigues. The wars culminated in the rise of the Tudor dynasty with Henry VII's victory at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, effectively ending the Middle Ages and ushering in a new chapter in English history. The Tudor and Stuart era, a transition period in British history, 1485 to 1714. The Tudor and Stuart periods were two of the most transformative periods in British history. Spanning from 1485 to 1714, these periods saw significant political, religious, and cultural changes that left a lasting impact on Britain. This article highlights key events and figures from these periods, highlighting their contribution to the development of modern Britain. The Tudor period, 1485 to 1603. Henry VII and the rise of the Tudors. The Tudor era began with Henry VII's victory at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, ending the Wars of the Roses and establishing the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII worked to stabilize England's finances, strengthen the monarchy, and secure his family's future through strategic marriages and alliances. Henry VIII and the English Reformation. Henry VII's son, Henry VIII, is one of the most famous monarchs in British history, largely due to his 6 marriages and his role in the English Reformation. Dissatisfied with the Pope's refusal to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII broke with the Roman Catholic Church and established the Church of England, appointing himself its supreme head. This monumental change not only changed the religious landscape of England but also set the stage for future conflicts and changes. Elizabeth I and the Elizabethan era. The reign of Henry VIII's daughter, Elizabeth I, marked the Elizabethan era, a golden age of discovery, cultural flourishing, and national pride. Elizabeth I's policies promoted the arts, resulting in the work of literary giants such as William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. His reign also saw the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, a decisive victory that established England as a formidable naval power and established him as one of the most successful and respected monarchs in British history. Got the position. The Stuart era, 1603 to 1714. Union of James I and the Crown. The Stuart era began with the union of the English and Scottish crowns under James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England in 1603. This union laid the foundation for the future United Kingdom, bringing England and Scotland under a single monarch while keeping England and Scotland separate. Governments and legal systems. The English Civil War and the execution of Charles I. The Stuart era was marked by significant political turmoil, particularly the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651. The conflict arose from tensions between King Charles I and Parliament over issues of governance, religion, and royal authority. The war ended with the execution of Charles I in 1649, an unprecedented event that led to the temporary establishment of the Commonwealth under Oliver Cromwell. Restoration and Glorious Revolution. The monarchy was restored in 1660 with the return of Charles II, but tensions between the monarchy and Parliament persisted. A major event was the Glorious Revolution of 1688, during which James II was deposed and replaced by William III and Mary II, who agreed to rule as constitutional monarchs. The revolution established a constitutional monarchy, which significantly limited the powers of the Crown and expanded the role of Parliament. A legacy of the Tudor and Stuart eras. The Tudor and Stuart periods were periods of profound change and development in British history. The religious reforms initiated by Henry VIII and strengthened under Elizabeth I marked the beginning of future religious and political conflicts. The political changes of the Stuart era, including the Civil War and the Glorious Revolution, were important in shaping the modern British state, developing the principles of constitutional monarchy and parliamentary sovereignty. These periods also contributed to Britain's cultural and intellectual heritage with advances in literature, research, and science. The legacy of figures such as Elizabeth I, Shakespeare, and Newton continue to influence British identity and global culture. The British Empire and the Industrial Revolution, an age of change, 18th to 19th centuries. The 18th and 19th centuries played an important role in shaping modern Britain. This period, characterized by the expansion of the British Empire and the transformative Industrial Revolution, established Britain as a dominant world power. Understanding this era is crucial to appreciating Britain's historical trajectory and its lasting impact on the world. Expansion of the British Empire in the 18th century. Foundations of a world empire. The 18th century marked a significant expansion of the British Empire. After earlier explorations and settlements, Britain established an extensive network of colonies in North America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia. This expansion was driven by economic gain, strategic advantage, and the spread of British culture and influence. Key colonies and their effects. 1. The British established 13 colonies along the eastern seaboard that later became the United States after the American Revolution. These colonies were very important for trade, especially in tobacco, cotton, and sugar. 2. The Caribbean islands were important for profitable sugar plantations. The British colonies of Jamaica and Barbados, among others, played a central role in the Atlantic slave trade, which had a profound effect on the population and economy of the region. 3. British interests in Africa initially centered on the slave trade, establishing forts and trading posts along the West African coast. This serious trade had lasting effects on African societies and set the stage for later colonial projects in the interior of the continent. 4. In Asia, the British East India Company expanded its influence through trade and military conquest. By the end of the century, the company controlled vast territories in India, laying the foundation for full British colonial rule in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution, transforming society and the economy. Technical inventions. The Industrial Revolution that began in the late 18th century fundamentally changed the economy and society of Great Britain. Key innovations in technology, such as the steam engine, machine looms, and advances in iron production, revolutionized the manufacturing process. These technologies allow for mass production, lower costs, and increased efficiency. Transportation of revolution. Improvements in transportation were critical to the Industrial Revolution. The development of the steam engine and the expansion of the railway network enabled the rapid movement of goods and people. An improved network of canals and roads further facilitated trade and movement, helping economic growth. Urbanization and social change. The Industrial Revolution promoted significant urbanization. People moved from the countryside to the cities in search of work in the new factories. This migration led to the rapid growth of cities such as Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool, transforming them into industrial centers. However, this urbanization brought challenges. Overcrowded cities faced problems such as poor sanitation, inadequate housing, and harsh working conditions. These social changes led to early labor movements and demands for reform, which gradually improved living and working conditions. Economic dominance. By the mid-19th century, Britain had become the world's leading industrial and economic power. British factories produced large quantities of goods for both home use and export. The British Navy ensured control of important trade routes, further cementing Britain's global economic dominance. The lasting effect of the era. The expansion of the British Empire and the Industrial Revolution had profound and lasting effects. The empire facilitated the spread of British culture, language, and political ideas around the world. Meanwhile, the technological and economic advances of the Industrial Revolution set the stage for modern industrial societies. Cultural and political legacy. The British Empire left a complex legacy, including the spread of parliamentary democracy, the English language, and a legal system based on British models. However, it also involved exploitation and colonial oppression, the effects of which are still felt today in many former colonies. Foundation for modern industry. The technological innovations and economic structures developed during the Industrial Revolution provided the basis for contemporary industrial practices. Many of the principles and inventions of this period continue to influence modern manufacturing, transportation, and economic systems. 20th century and modern Britain, challenges, development, and global influence. The 20th century was a period of change for Britain, with significant challenges and remarkable developments. This period saw Britain go through 2 world wars, the dissolution of its vast empire, integration into the European Union, and eventually its exit. These events have profoundly shaped modern-day Britain, reinforcing its role as a global cultural, economic, and political powerhouse. In this article, we will examine the key developments of the 20th century and their lasting impact on British identity. World Wars. Defining moments. World War I, 1914 to 1918. World War I, also known as the Great War, was a major event in the early 20th century. Britain, as part of the Allied powers, played an important role in the conflict. The war resulted in significant casualties and widespread social and economic disruption. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919, which officially ended the war, imposed heavy reparations on Germany but also set the stage for future conflicts. World War II, 1939 to 1945. World War II was another defining moment for Britain. The nation, led by Prime Minister Winston Churchill, stood resilient against the Axis powers. The Blitz, a German bombing campaign against Britain, tested the resolve of the British people but ultimately strengthened national unity. The war ended with an Allied victory in 1945, establishing Britain as one of the preeminent world powers in the post-war order. The post-war era, decolonization and economic transformation. The end of the British Empire. After World War II, the process of decolonization accelerated. Many colonies, inspired by the principles of self-determination, sought independence. India, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, gained independence in 1947, followed by several other territories in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean in the 1950s and 1960s. This period marked the end of the British Empire and the emergence of the Commonwealth, a voluntary association of independent states. Economic recovery and the welfare state. The post-war period also saw significant economic recovery and social reform in Britain. The introduction of the welfare state under Clement Attlee's Labour government in 1945 aimed to address social inequality and improve living standards. Key reforms included the establishment of the National Health Service, NHS, in 1948, which provided free health care to all citizens, and various social security measures to support the unemployed and the elderly. Integration into the European Union. Joining the European Economic Community, EEC. In 1973, the UK joined the European Economic Community, EEC, which later became the European Union, EU. Membership in the EEC aims to promote economic growth through access to a wider common market and foster closer political and economic ties with neighbouring European countries. This period was characterised by debates on the merits and demerits of EU membership, which would continue for decades. Brexit, Britain's withdrawal from the European Union. The 2016 referendum on EU membership resulted in a narrow vote to leave the EU, leading to Brexit in 2020. This decision marked a significant change in the political and economic landscape of the United Kingdom. Brexit has had wide-ranging effects, including changes to trade relations, immigration policies, and regulatory frameworks. It also reignited discussions about national sovereignty and Britain's future direction. Britain's global influence in modern times. Cultural influences. Britain remains a global cultural leader with its contributions to literature, music, art, and media. The British cultural scene, from the works of Shakespeare to the music of the Beatles and contemporary television series, is having a profound influence around the world. Economic and political role. Economically, the United Kingdom is a major financial centre, with London being one of the world's leading cities for banking, finance, and commerce. Politically, the UK is a key player in international organisations such as the United Nations, NATO, and the G7. Its diplomatic influence and military capabilities ensure that it remains a major force in world affairs. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Britain's glorious history. We explore the key periods that have shaped this nation, from its earliest beginnings through the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods to its profound transformations in the Bronze and Iron Ages. We have seen how Roman Britain brought prosperity and cultural enrichment, and how the Anglo-Saxon and Viking Age laid the foundation for modern British culture and rule. The Norman Conquest and the Middle Ages introduced new influences and important events that still resonate today. The Tudor and Stuart periods reshaped Britain's political, religious, and cultural landscapes, while the 18th and 19th centuries saw Britain emerge as a world power through the expansion of its empire and the Industrial Revolution. Finally, we looked at the 20th century and the modern era, showing Britain's resilience and ability to adapt to enormous change. Britain's history is a testament to its enduring legacy and global influence. As we move forward, the lessons and successes of the past will undoubtedly guide us. We hope this research has deepened your understanding and appreciation of Britain's rich and varied history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical journeys and insights. Thanks for watching.